synchronicity.com, and I'm back doing of Crafty Hangouts, and this time we've been provided with the most gorgeous ribbon from Ribbon Reads Patriotic, and most of the people that I am originally American. Canada fun if I did one based in Canada Day instead of the 4th of July. I'm going to show you. You certainly 4th of July anyway, so it's not going to be. I could definitely use some of these ideas for actually lots right away. I'm going to move my camera down and so that I can move it down and too dizzy watching it move or anything like that. So let me just take off. There we go. So that's not at the bottom of the screen anymore and won't be getting in your way. So I'm just going to use actually a piece of the beautiful ribbon, and I'm going to cover you up for a second, and I'm going to move my camera down. Oh, we need it just a little bit more. Sorry, I tried to avoid as much of that dizzy stuff as I can. So here's just some of the ribbons they sent me, and I do mean just some. They sent me a ton of ribbon, and it's all gorgeous, gorgeous. This, most of these right here are some of the grosgrain ones, and they are, you know, that you can tell they're really great quality ribbon, nice and thick, and they hold their shape beautifully, and you know, you just, you know, you're dealing with a gorgeous product here. This one, I don't know how well you can catch up that shine, but it's gorgeous, all glittered and shiny. Even the back side of it, which I've been using, has a little bit of the sheen and a little bit of the glitter to it as well. So even that's kind of fun. So just to give you an idea of the ribbons, I'm going to just move these out of the way, and I'm going to show you what I've been working on. So I love me some mason jars. Always have, ever since I was a little girl. Always been excited by mason jars, and I don't care whether they kind of stay on trend or they become passe, I'll still be using mason jars. So I saw some really cool ideas for 4th of July, and they had 3 mason jars, and 2 of them were painted. They were all painted, and 2 of them were red and white stripe, and then one on the end was blue with little white stars on it. And I thought that was just so cute. So I wanted to kind of use that as my inspiration for what I was going to make for this. So what I started with was, this is probably a pint jar, I'm guessing, and I just took some of the gorgeous ribbons and I wrapped them around the jar. Super simple, right? I used a combination of some tacky glue and some of the double stick tape, because that way I was able to kind of use the double stick tape as a temporary thing just to kind of hold the ribbon where I wanted it to be until I could really secure it with the tacky glue. This, you know, is really great. I've got my little napkins and my cutlery in them. They're little Canada Day napkins, and it's just kind of a pretty way to add it to your table and have something pretty to display them in that goes along with the red and white theme. I also have, until Canada Day, I've not been putting the napkins and the cutlery in there, and I've been using it like this on my mantle. So I have buckets, red and white buckets of red and white flowers, and then all of my cute little jars that I'm using for as like little tea light holders and that kind of thing, so that I can get double use out of it. You know, it's going to be part of my centerpiece on my table for on candidate, but it's also going to serve as mantle decoration until then. So that's one of them that I did. I also did a few just with this striped ribbon that they gave us. These are the smaller ones, like the little, I'll show you side by side. These are the shorter ones, so that again, these make really great for little tea light stuff, but also when it's time to use them on the table, I can put, you know, like packets of mustard and ketchup in them, or even you know, put a little cup and sit it down in here with some of the condiments in it or something like that. It's also perfect for if you're serving coffee or tea or something and you want like the sugar in that kind of thing, or you're using like creamer or something like that. It could hold those kinds of things. You know, so many uses that you could use these for on the actual table as well as for the tea lights. So those were two. But then, you know, I thought, okay, it's red and white, so it's Canada Day related, and that's great, but I love that whole flag aspect. And I started kind of playing around and trying to figure out, okay, what if I did like 2 jars on either side that were mostly red, and then came up with something for in the middle jar that would look like the maple leaf, with maybe, you know, some plain white ribbon on it and then the red maple leaf. So I started just kind of playing around with some of the ribbon, and I was trying to, you know, like fold it kind of like this to form the peaks of the leaf. And I don't know if it's because, you know, I've been a little bit under the weather lately, or if it's because it's been a crazy busy schedule with all kinds of family events lately, or if this just was not a great idea. But it didn't really work. It was a big old craft fail, and I could not get it to work, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do because I really wanted that aspect of the flag. So one of the things I oftentimes do when I'm stumped is I pull out some graph paper, and I really like this kind that's called the quad paper. I'm sorry, that's probably not reading very well on the screen right now, but it's the kind that's got 4 squares per inch. And the reason why I love it so much is because I'll doodle on it. Now, why not just doodle on plain white paper? Well, because when you start doodling and you've got these squares to work with, it's very conducive to working out an actual pattern that's easy to translate into other things. So I often use this, and I'll come up with a little design, and then I can turn that into a cross-stitch pattern or a beading pattern, or, like I did this time, into a weaving pattern. So all I did was, after I played around with a bunch of sketches of the different maple leaf ideas that I had, I started thinking, okay, what about working within the confines of the squares of the graph paper? And I'm going to make a stylized kind of maple leaf that fits. So I drew this little maple leaf here, and all these W's around it signify what would be the white space, because that was easier for me to count when I actually put this to use as a pattern. I drew that little shape, and I thought, okay, is anybody going to get it? Like, are they really going to get it? So I held this up and showed it to my daughter and said, what does this look like to you? And she said, well, it looks like a maple leaf. And I'm like, all right, I think we have some success. So now, one thing I'll point out to you is that this little design here ended up being 7 squares by 7 squares. So for me, in weaving, that was going to be 7 ribbons by 7 ribbons. The thing is that the Canadian flag, it's, you know, it's white in the center with the red maple leaf, and then it's got a band of red and a band of red. Well, I figured out that I needed to have not 7 ribbons each direction. I needed to have 9, because I needed another white one going here, 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 to really define the space. Otherwise, this started kind of bleeding right into the red section, and you started losing that semblance of a maple leaf. So that's just one thing to bear in mind, is that as you get started, you may have to make a few little adjustments like that. So this is what I came up with as a result. And you know, my daughter was right. When you see it like this, it sure does look like a little Canadian flag, okay? Now, I could probably use another white ribbon here and another white ribbon here, because I'll show you in a second why I ended up without that white band that I talked about before here. That was all part of the plan, but then I encountered another little issue, and I obviously did not compensate well enough for it. So I'll probably take this off of the jar because I've just got it on here sort of temporarily, and I will probably run another little white ribbon there and white ribbon there, so that, see what I mean? It's kind of bleeding right over into the red space, and I think, you know, just having another little bit of, another little bit of white there helps to define it better. So that's one thing to know. Part of the reason why it ended up that way, though, is because of the way I started weaving it. So I've got bigger ribbons here, and I apologize because these are the glittery ones, so I hope they're going to show up okay. But what I started doing was that I started weaving with it, and I've got this mostly done. And as I started weaving it, I realized, okay, so I'm working on a piece of cardboard, especially these tiny little ribbons. They were slipping and sliding all over the place. I needed to secure them and keep them in place. So I'm just using an inexpensive washi type tape here. Painter's tape, that low tack painter's tape would work well too. You don't want anything with too much grab, because you don't want to take a chance on marring the ribbon or anything like that. So I started using that to hold it in place. I started doing my weaving. I got my little maple leaf done, and I think I've just dropped my other ribbons. So I'm going to grab some of this ribbon, and I'm just going to cut a couple more because I want to show you. I didn't want you to have to sit here and watch the whole weaving process, because, you know, I'm sure everybody can figure out the over-under stuff, but I do want to just kind of show you how to work with that, with the whole pattern idea. All right, so put this ribbon out of the way, and let me just grab my pattern again. Okay, all right, sorry about that. So as I started working, I was working with the red here, and then I was weaving the white ribbons so that I had a red maple leaf showing, as in the finished product. But, you know, like I said, I'm taping these down. I found that I had to, with the smaller ribbons, tape the top and bottom down. So I had the whole thing all taped to my cardboard, and then I hit a snag. I had the whole thing finished, and I went, now what? How do I get it off this cardboard and onto my jar without it all falling apart? And let me tell you, it fell apart about 1,000,000 times. Okay, slight exaggeration. But it fell apart a lot before I was able to come up with another answer. So what I ended up doing, and why you see it now here with this red and you've got a white maple leaf, is because I realized I could work backwards. So I wove it this way with the white maple leaf showing, so that then when you flip it over, you've got a red maple leaf showing. That's also, however, why I ended up still needing one more white ribbon on either side here that I forgot to compensate for, but that's easily done, right? As soon as you flip it over, you add the other white ribbon on either side, tack it down, and you're good to go. Now, you do have some, so you know, what am I going to do? Even though I've done it backwards now, what am I still going to do here to get it onto the jar? Well, here's the thing. There's lots of different options. With the small ribbon, I tried pinning it, and I found that it was just impossible. It still was not holding together into a nice tight weave. That just wasn't working. With a little bit wider ribbon, once you start getting wider and wider, the pins start working nicely, especially if you're using a really big wide ribbon like that. Pins are a beautiful way to do it. So that's one answer. Another answer is using something like Mod Podge. So I get the ribbons on here, get the Mod Podge for fabric, brush it over once you've got this completed, brush it over, let it sit, you know, at least, I would say at least out this far you want to do it, okay? Let it sit, and that will kind of hold the ribbons together, and then you can take it off your cardboard. If you're going to do the Mod Podge method, I do suggest to you that before you start weaving, you cover your cardboard in some wax paper, because that helps then, if any of it seeps through, which it will, for you to be able to just peel it back off, and you're good to go, okay? So there's another answer. With the bigger ribbons, once you've got them pinned, you can very easily run it through the sewing machine. You know, just take some stitches through it, and it's going to hold it in place for you. So, you know, here, 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 and you're pretty much good to go. So that's another answer. With this small little one, I simply used clear packing tape. Easy, easy, easy. I just put pieces. I worked starting with small scissors and just put some pieces over the top, and then I put a bigger one right over the whole thing. It added some stiffness to it so that it kind of held its shape nicely to go onto the jar with. It held it together beautifully. It doesn't show because it's clear packing tape and it's on the inside anyway, because we're working upside down, and it worked great. So there's several different options of things you can try. Now, one last thing I want to show you. Oh, and an idea I had, which I haven't done yet, but I'm certainly going to give it a try. I just don't have, they sent me some wide ribbons, and I've got white and I've got some other colors, but I don't have a really super wide red like this. So I need to get some super wide red, because I think with this, you could even create like placemats, right? I mean, how fun would that be to make maybe your kids or your whole family, or if you're really, really ambitious, all your guests for your Canada Day barbecue, make everybody a placemat, or give them the ribbon and let them make their own, right? Show them how, and they can make their own as an activity at it. So, you know, you could definitely just keep enlarging and enlarging and enlarging until you have something placemat sized. Okay, so I was going to show you, here's my pattern, if you can see it. And all it's a matter of is counting. That's why I put those W's there, because I wanted to make sure that with my old eyes, I didn't, you know, miss one of these squares with those, you know, kind of faint little blue lines. I put the W's there so that I'd know, okay, white, 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 white. So all I did to get started on here, now, again, you either need to remember to transpose it because we're working backwards, or you want to redraw this, right? And you want to draw it with all these W's turned into R's for red, and you want to have this part white, okay? But it's just a simple matter of counting. So I counted 1, 2, 3, 4. So I needed to leave 4 ribbons red, have my white ribbon, 4 more ribbons red. So, you know, I started off here, and I went 1, 2, 3, 4, because this one's my extra one that I forgot to do on the small, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4 that I left red, so I put it under all of those, then I wove it right up over the 1, left 4 red, okay? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, so I went 1, 2, 3, let the white show, 1, 2, 3. Simple as that. Okay, you could do this with all kinds of different shapes. Anything that you can make with still using these squares and have it still kind of resemble the thing you're trying to get across. Easy peasy. So simple as that. Okay, so here we are over here. We're getting towards the end. I've got 3 red, I've got 3 white, and I've got 3 red. So that's this one. So now I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So I need to leave 1, 2, 3, 4. So I need to weave this under. And sometimes, you gotta kind of play with it a bit. I found using like the blunt end of a needle sometimes was helpful. With this tape that's a low tack tape, it does hold things in place, but you can kind of ease them out a bit if you need a little bit of ease to get them under the proper ribbons and that kind of thing. So, or you could use, popsicle stick, something like that, if you want the kids to be able to work on these. So it's not tough, okay? And then there we go. So there's my ribbon. This one is going to go just underneath every single one of the red ones because it's only going to matter on the other side. And quite frankly, I find it the trickiest one to get under all of these. As you can see, you just kind of have to keep playing with it and playing with it. And there we go. Okay, and I've kind of messed up these ribbons, but like I said, with this tape, you can, see, you can make some adjustments. So I just go through and I start, and if you have to, pick up the ribbons, tighten them down again, and there you go. You've got your shape. It's backwards, but you're going to flip it over. One last tip. Most of these ribbons that I'm working with are double-sided. So you need to remember that if you're going to work on the back side of it, what side do you want showing? I decided that this, really shiny part, it's kind of got a bit of a pink tinge to it, I didn't want that showing because of that. I wanted this other side to show. Okay, so this side's got a bit of a pink tinge. This side is just, I don't know if you can even make that out, but it's mostly white, but it's got a little bit of a sheen to it. That's the side I want showing, so I'm working with this side up. The same with this ribbon. It's plain red on one side, which would be perfectly fine, because that's what the flag is. But, since I'm kind of going with a bit of a stylized maple leaf, I decided to kind of go with a little bit of a fun aspect, and I used the polka dot side to be the side that's showing. So there we go. Okay, so I will post, I will finish this one, and I will get it flipped over and, I don't know, put onto a jar or something. Coffee cans also work well. And I will share pictures of this. I've got pictures of my mantle, pictures of my table, and I've got a close-up picture of this to post on my blog post. And I'll do a little bit better sketch for you and post a picture of that too, so that you've got that, so that you've got things right in front of you. I don't know about you, but I like to watch the video, but I also like to have kind of some of it in static pictures to be able to follow along with as I go. The other fun thing that I'm going to have in the blog post for you, so you need to be watching for that post, is that I've got a coupon code for you. So you can get a discount on buying some ribbon for yourself from Ribbon Retreat. So there you go. Thanks everybody for joining me. I hope to see you again on the next time that we run one of these. See you over on my blog, Creative Synchrony. Bye.